Hello, I'm Josiah David, aka I2I35, and welcome to the fourth part of me correcting SolRosenberg84, aka Mike's videos. And in this one, it's called Having Kids in Church is Wrong. I dare say this is part of the whole manipulation degeneration program that is going on in how people these days tend to view good as evil and evil as good. And by the way, this is what he has to say about it.
It really pisses me off when I see kids in church. Why?
It really ticks you off, doesn't it? It really ticks you off. I could say the same thing about a lot of kids being in churches of humanism, being brainwashed and never told that the supposed evidences for evolution have been proven wrong, and that there is no God, there is no purpose to life, there are inferior races out there, evolution is true, the Bible is wrong, stuff like that, and guess what you get? A Columbine High School shooting.
Because a child at the age of 5 does not understand the argument for a deity's existence. To understand me, you're not teaching your kids about the goodness of Jeebus and all that other stuff because they cannot understand the metaphysical arguments that you are trying to teach them.
You're trying to say, I'm smart, they're dumb. Look, basically, Dr. Hovind explained everything in such a simple way that even a 4-year-old can understand what he was talking about. You say children don't understand or stuff like that. Basically, people understand for what children at that age need to be taught and how it should be taught to them. Saying they can't understand the argument for the existence of God, like, oh, they can't understand, they can't understand, they can't understand. You just say that because you just want to think that your side is, you just want us to think that your side is intellectual and basically such as the like, but basically it's not true. Kids do understand. Basically children understand. Basically you shouldn't call children kids. I'll discuss that in another video.
And all you're doing is brainwashing your kids. Like, I'm going to say this nicely, but
brainwashing, basically, liberal fanatical activists always call this child abuse or brainwashing. I have to say this, but you degenerated folks are doing nothing but destroying the real meaning and appliance for those words. You should probably aim at that word, like brainwashing, at countries like homicidal Islamic countries in the Mideast, North Korea, and children being given obscenity, told pseudoscientifically growing up that life is just a coincidence, they came from slime, nothing but a blob of flesh and chemicals that got together by chance, survival of the fittest, natural selection, blah blah blah, and guess what you end up with? Columbine High School shooting. How about this for brainwashing and indoctrination? You're just an animal. You came from pond scum. You came about by natural processes. You're worth nothing special. If you have a tough life, live with it. There is no heaven. There is no hell. God doesn't love you. Jesus didn't exist. You can live however you want. You can follow this or that religion and cult if you want, etc. I have to say this, but you cannot defend a dying, dangerous, depressing, fallacious, erroneous worldview, bro. You just can't do it. Basically, evolutionism is basically the biggest joke disguised in the guise of so-called science and reason. It is not science and reason at all, and science has disproved it over and over again.
Let's say this nicely, but what you're doing is wrong, and you have to realize it is wrong.
You keep saying wrong, wrong, wrong. When you try to say there is no absolutes, like, there are no rules and stuff like that, how am I supposed to listen to your definition of right and wrong when you deny that the existence of the Lord? Basically, we fallen, fallible human beings cannot really decipher what is exactly right and wrong on our own. It just doesn't work that way. Basically, the Lord shows us the most obvious and clearest way how to live and what is right and wrong, and basically, since He created us in our image, we basically reflect that attitude of right and wrong. Just saying it's wrong to, basically, that's part of the indoctrination these days of degeneration, saying that evil is good and good is evil. Basically, if you tell a child in church that there is a God who loves them, who died for them, who loves them, who wants to have a relationship with them, and that they ought to love others as themselves, I'm sure the world would have all the peace it's ever wanted. There would be no indifference, ignorance, or indecisiveness. Basically, helping countries in poverty would go crazy. We basically be helping people all the time, and you to call that, like, that must be stopped. I am not taking one stand of reason with you, pal. you are saying things flawed and illogical, and you aren't deciphering things properly, nothing but from a hallucinated perspective.
Just because it happened to you doesn't make it right to do to your kids.
Just because it happened to me, I just happened to be raised up in it. I'm glad I was not raised in a Buddhist family. Yeah, if I was raised in a Buddhist family, would that make it right? If I was raised in a Hindu, communist, Darwinist, or North Korean, or communist, or a Sikh, or Muslim family, would that make it right? Basically, a lot of people raised up like that think, wow, that sounds good. Well, that does not make it right. You ought to really search it out for yourself and really find if it matches reality and reason and what is going on. I found that evolutionism does not match what we have been observing all this time, but the gospel of Christ, the creation account, makes a whole lot more sense. In an evolutionary worldview, everything just gives you a headache. Nothing makes sense, and there are a lot of anomalies that fit great with the creation perspective that cannot be explained with the evolutionary perspective. It just gives you a headache.
That indoctrination is wrong and you shouldn't do it.
This is not indoctrination. It's telling people to think.
Teach your kids to think for themselves.
Think for themselves. Well, people can think for themselves and find things out on their own if they're actually being consistent. You know, Helen Keller was blind and deaf, but she always knew that there was something there, something big and powerful, something there that loved her, and she eventually became a Christian as well. She found God. And like telling people to think for themselves, like free thinking, basically they would actually, think for yourselves only on the assumption that they can think critically when they've been only told what to think in school, not how to think. I tell you that much. Basically, when you get to know the Lord, it's where the essence of wise, free thinking comes along. And Jesus bless you.